Hello everybody, welcome back to Shannon's Shelf. I am Shannon. I am in a different place today. I actually haven't recorded a video in probably over a week or two. I kind of just like scheduled them out pretty far in advance, and I guess for good reason. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna maintain that forever, but I got super busy with Thanksgiving and the holidays and like planning stuff, doing stuff. I ended up, I'm currently actually in Illinois. I'm trying to like get my family here, but they're not here with me for the time being. I'm staying with my brother, and the heat just kicked on, so hopefully it's not too annoying. I don't know how long I'll be in this sit-up necessarily. There'll be a temporary place, but then again, if you've been around the channel long enough, you'll know that the last place I was at in Arizona was supposed to be relatively temporary as well. So we're just in a transitory time, I guess, with Shannon. But today I wanted to go over the books I read and maybe give an idea at least of what I want to read. I actually started the month off really strong. I read about like 9 of these books in the first half of the month, which was really good, I guess. And then I didn't read like hardly at all. I didn't finish any books for the last half except for 3 books that I actually just listened to because I had a 26-hour drive. And so I had some time to listen to books. And I don't know, I'm trying to get adjusted. I just finished my, I actually haven't submitted one because I just need to go over it one more time. My final draft for one of my semester papers, but my other semester paper I turned in yesterday. So I'm pretty much essentially done with my coursework, college coursework for this semester. But yeah, and then I mean, as far as other monthly stuff goes, there was one movie I watched, but it was kind of in tandem with a book, so I'll mention that later. Oh, I did watch Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and I enjoyed it. Pretty interesting, pretty funny. I heard that the depiction of Butch Cassidy was supposed to be pretty accurate to how he was in real life. I thought it would be interesting because Mormons are, I guess, generally known to be upstanding citizens, but Butch Cassidy was Mormon. Or raised, he had a Mormon childhood at least. He was born in Beaver, Utah, and I've been to Beaver a number of times. It's just off I-15 in southern Utah, and I've camped outside of Beaver in the mountains there. It's pretty lovely. I don't know if I would say Beaver as a town is lovely, but still, I thought it was interesting. I watched it with a friend, and doing more symposium stuff still. That same friend presented, and then have another symposium presentation this month from another friend, and I should be presenting next month in January. But either way, we can get into, I didn't do any writing, I guess, so my thoughts are a little scrambled if I'm being honest, and if that isn't if I'm being honest, and if that isn't obvious, perhaps more so than normal. But I'll get into the 12 books I read this month. So I feel like it's been good because last month I read 11 and the month prior it was 10. So we're getting steadily better. I don't think I'm reading 13 in December. It's December 5th as of recording, so I haven't finished a book yet. In fact, I've hardly read. So we'll see though. First book I read was Wild Pork and Watercress by Barry Crump. Super awesome. I really enjoyed this book. In fact, I did a video on it already. It's already out. Me and my wife read it like together essentially, and that wasn't planned, but that's what happened, and it was glorious, and I highly recommend you read some Barry Crump. I plan to read more of him. I'll include that in the TBR section, but that's the hope, at least. And then I also read this. I did mention this. I can't remember if I mentioned it for a TBR for the last one I did, but I did mention it for like end of year tag, like some autumnal read, and this is the Evergreen, a Northern Seasonal. It's like a Scottish nationalist thing from turn of the century, around 1900 or so. And this is volume 2, and it was a seasonal. Volume 2 was for autumn. It was very, very romantic, as you can imagine. A lot of good poetry in here, though. A lot of good poems that I actually really enjoyed. I don't know if I'm gonna make a video on this book necessarily. I had been making videos on pretty much everything I've been reading, and that's why I got scheduled out so far. But I haven't lately, and I don't know exactly what I'm gonna be making videos on. But I did read Evergreen and Northern Seasonal, Volume 2, which I did enjoy. If you're interested in stuff like that, I can recommend it. I'm Scottish as far as some heritage and I guess ethnic stuff goes, but you know, I've done Scottish books before, and I'm still reading another Scottish book actually. And then I finished Mark Jessup's second book on the Royal Navy in the Napoleonic Age Senior Service. I also did a video that came out pretty recently with Mark discussing his books and just some other thoughts really. If you're interested in that, go check that out. If you're not interested in that, maybe just go check out Mark's channel too. He talks about lots of other interesting things. I really enjoy Mark's channel. I should get onto that. I was like, as I'm recording this, one of Mark's videos just came out and I was tagged, and there's several other tags I've been tagged in, and I've kind of fallen behind. So we'll see. I'm behind on tag videos and just like videos in general, but we'll see what I do. If I don't get to the tag right away, or if maybe I just might not get to it at all, please forgive me. But yeah, Royal Navy is not something history is not something I usually read. He uses a device where he uses like these fictional characters to make it more humane, not just like some blank numbers. He does give you numbers and a lot of cold hard facts pretty much, right? But he makes it more relatable in many ways, and I think it was written very well, and it's a pretty quick nonfiction read, but you get a lot of information, so I can definitely recommend that. And then I read A House Full of Females, and that was my most recent video actually. I listened to it, and recommend that. That's like more early Mormonism and plural marriage, like polygamy and stuff like that, specifically for women's rights. Very interesting. It was something I kind of read at the spur of a moment because Raph, who also has a booktube channel that I'll try to link down below as well, if you're interested in Mark's channel and Raph's channel. Raph is I would say he's a smart guy. He's German. I actually I don't really know if I would say I know Raph, but my brother knows Raph at least, and that's how I know Raph, and I know who he is. And I don't watch all of his videos, but I watch some of his videos, and he's insightful, to say the least. So I can recommend his channel. And then the next one I have, and it's actually, oh sorry, not the last one in print. There's another one over there. This is A Naturalist's Eye. So I mentioned this in I'll get to it later tag, actually. And since I mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should actually read that, because it was a pretty quick read. It was Natural History. It was 20 Somerset Years by Philip Radford, who was he took all the photographs in this and wrote all they're like columns that were getting published through SANS, Somerset Archaeology and Natural History Society, which I'm a member of. I don't know if I have money to renew it, but I'm hoping to, even if I can't renew it right away at the beginning of the new year, I'll renew it at some point. But very interesting. I don't know if it's something that I'm gonna read a lot more of. This is not something I normally read of, this natural history stuff, but it was kind of fun in many ways. Like, I especially seeing like his one that, you know, coincided with my birth, because I was born in 1997, which may be old to some people and maybe young or very young to others. I don't know. But I was born in 97. I am 27. Next April I'll be 28. You know, that's how that works. Every year you get older. But yeah, the spread of collared doves, crows, and owls, sparrowhawk attack over the shops of Taunton, picking mushrooms and surprising an adder, bird songs and nests, earlier 1997. So this is stuff that was happening in Somerset County for as far as like some wildlife goes around the time I was born. I just thought that was kind of neat, and so it was kind of funny. Like he put his humor into it, like seeing a black belt laying out in the grass, and I guess word of advice is there's probably not a black belt just laying out in the grass. It's probably a snake, just like it was for him. So either way, there was that one. And then I also read The Hours. Now I read this pretty much from Philip Hall's recommendation, because on my 10 unread authors video, 10 authors I would really wanted to read, and hopefully sooner than later, and that I've thought about reading for a while, at least to some degree, and I just haven't for some reason, for whatever reason really. And one of them was Virginia Woolf. Now, The Hours was not by Virginia Woolf, but it was like an homage to her or whatever, like written in a very interesting style actually. But I I enjoyed it, if I'm being honest. Like it's by Michael Cunningham. I don't think I've said that, but perspective of three different women: a Mrs. Dalloway, a Mrs. Brown, and a Mrs. Wolfe. So it's kind of like a Mrs. Wolfe, Virginia Woolf, of course, and then a Mrs. Dalloway who's kind of played off character of Mrs. Dalloway, which I had not read. And then I watched a movie. I watched a movie on the Hours, which came out earlier this century. And I think there was a lot of deep emotion in the books. The book was excellently written, and the film was good too. I enjoyed the book more. I mean, that always happens, but the film was good. Nice to see it in visually, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's just not necessarily a message I needed to hear. I kind of feel like aware of some of these things in many ways. I think it's a worthwhile message though. It's kind of a lot around mental health. Moving, perhaps kind of maybe traumatizing in some regards, but very thoughtful. I think it's something that I might need to revisit at some point, and it's something that I probably will. Very quick read. Of course, films never take that long, generally speaking, so can recommend The Hours. And thank you, Philip, for that recommendation as well. The Periwinkle Woman was something I listened to. It was kind of a similar device to Mark's book on the Royal Navy, using fictional characters. Now Witi Ihimaria Maeda or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Forgive me. He named his characters while Mark did not. But there were some real characters kind of tell, real events. Like Tewiti, who was or Tefiti, I guess, if you're depending on the dialect. So peaceful Maori protesting during the colonial era. Very, very interesting, kind of powerful, kind of sad. Not kind of sad, but like a part of history that can be troubling at times, and I think that was treated very respectfully. And it was funny because there was like some people in the story where like this is like a caricature of this like the bad colonial British man or whatever. But then like, to be honest, that's how some of them were. And it was very interesting, very informative, while still technically it's kind of like nonfiction mostly, but so mostly informative, but in like a more relatable way. It was how it's delivered to you. So either way, I enjoyed it. And then last one I have in physical copy here is Blue Tattoo. I say the word interesting a lot. This one was interesting as well. Very quick read. It was written by a journalist. There were actually like at least one or two things that I was like, this is kind of true. It's like a half truth, which journalists are very good at. In fact, I think a lot of journalists are not very good journalists, at least this day and age. Not that I've read a lot of journalism throughout different periods, but either way, she mostly did a good job, I would say. The author, that is, who is Margot Mifflin, and had some good points, especially about like the original biography of Olive Oatman, it's about, and it's just a intriguing story. There were some things that kind of just like made me angry, I'd almost say, like, and that's mostly as a father. Like her dad, who is the one that led them to getting slaughtered, including himself and his heavily pregnant wife, and most of his kids, and 2 of them getting sold into slavery and stuff like that. Like, honestly, just like infuriated me, because there was like every sign that he should have not been doing that, and he just ignored him. And especially like he like the youngest kids besides the unborn one, and actually there might have been a younger one too, like a baby kind of. He had a 3-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, just like I do. And so I think that like he had a number of kids as well, but I think that kind of I related to that pretty explicitly in many ways, and it made me really sad and angry that he got them killed. So sad story, but very interesting, especially if you can ignore that. And that's mostly just at the beginning, kind of talking about her life, life likely in the tribe, even though lots of it's, I guess, relatively informed speculation, and then life after. So very curious. And she was Mormon. That was one of the reasons I was interested. She's not mainline Mormonism, which I did not know until I was reading it. She was part of like the now defunct group Brewsterites, which followed like a boy prophet who believed in a literal paradise in like southern Arizona, which if you've ever been to southern Arizona, it's like absolutely no way. It went defunct. Like, it's not like a recent defunct thing, and like it lasted for a while. It fell apart like pretty dang quick, all things considered. Another one I read was Mythago Wood, and I read this from my twin brother's recommendation. He thought I might enjoy it, and I thought it was okay. I think it might have just been like too much of a slow burn, or felt that way for me. But because the whole idea I thought was actually pretty interesting, about like there being like an ancient wood that has like mythical creatures that are born of the subconscious of the people that live near them. Like there's recurring figures like Robin Hood figures and stuff like that, like kind of like Cuchulainn figures. So very, very interesting, if I'm being honest, but I just don't know what it was like on the delivery. Maybe it's just the guy's writing style wasn't for me. I'm not exactly sure, because I didn't enjoy it as much as I feel like I should have in hindsight, but either way, there was that one. And then the last three are books that I listened to. So I listened to Treasure Island, which I've never read before. Very interesting. The narrator that I had was kind of annoying. Like, his voice kind of annoyed me. But I don't, it must have just been his voice, because I could, like, his narration was objectively good, but it was just his voice for some reason. And then Mrs. Dalloway. I did listen to Mrs. Dalloway, so now I've crossed off 2 of my 10 unread authors already before this year was even out. And I enjoyed Mrs. Dalloway. I don't know if it's like knocked my socks off to the point where like I'm itching to read more Virginia Woolf right away, but I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely saw a lot of the parallels in the from Cunningham's The Hours. Having read that first, of course, but I knew it was, you know, based off stuff from Virginia Woolf and whatnot. But I really enjoyed Mrs. Dalloway. Very intriguing writing style, and just the emotion and like, I almost want to say the ambiance was excellent. But part of me kind of knew what to expect with Mrs. Dalloway. It was still enjoyable, but I feel like sometimes that makes it worse. Sometimes it makes it better. Like when I knew exactly what to expect with Lord of the Rings, instead, yet it was still amazing. And I didn't know exactly what to expect with Mrs. Dalloway, but I had a general idea, of course, of what to expect. And I don't know if that detracted from it. I don't know if it made it better. I don't know if it just didn't change anything. But yeah, Mrs. Dalloway was good. My first like proper experience with Virginia Woolf, and it was good. I can definitely say it was good. Recommended. So, and then the last one that I finished was The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Now, I've never read like Atlas Shrugged, and I have read Ayn Rand before. Her Romantic Manifesto. It's been a couple years since I read that. I remember liking her because she said Victor Hugo and Dostoevsky were like the best, like romantic, like pinnacle of the romantic era and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, I love those guys. So I was like, she can't be that wrong, right? But I don't know about The Fountainhead, if I'm being honest. I think that in many ways, first off, it's not usually so cut and dry. I feel like she wants it to be that way. Not explicitly, but the bad guy, the big collectivist evil baddie or whatever, I think he was an evil guy. Although lots of collectivists are, I don't think they're inherently evil like Ellsworth Toohey is. And then The Egoist by, like, she's like, these guys are bad. I'm like, okay, yeah, I agree. So we should be these guys. I'm like, but these guys suck too. It was pretty much my thought. Like, Howard Work is not a good person. I would not say he's a good person at all, especially not Gail Wynnum. And I think that was made explicit. Gail is not as good as Howard, but he still kind of follows a pretty general egoist idea. It's a bit different in practice, perhaps not as rational egoism. I don't know if either of them are really rational egoism. That's like the moral, ethical code that Ayn Rand supported, was rational egoism. I think there's a lot of problems with it, but it's I can see in many ways, there are some aspects where I think the egoist is a better option than the collectivist, but I think in many ways both of them are bad options, if I'm being honest. So it's kind of weird. Weird book. I don't really know what to take from it. The most interesting character was probably Dominique Franken, the main female character, because she's kind of an egoist in many ways, just like Howard Rourke, but she feels so much more like a real person, but she's super odd. There were some things about her that I was kind of like, what's wrong with this lady or whatever. So I wonder, I'm interested in maybe hearing more. If anyone's read it, let me know your thoughts on Dominique, or maybe just the book in general, but maybe seeing if there's like what scholarship has said about like Dominique Franken in it, because she's quite the character. But either way, Ayn Rand, I know she's a pretty divisive person. Some people love her, some people hate her. I think she's okay, it seems, but don't love her or hate her. And then I guess for TBR, I'm gonna go over this quickly. I'm still not done with The Hobbit. I haven't read as much to my kids lately as I was hoping to be honest, unfortunately. We are over the 300 page count, and it's like 360, 370 or whatever, or at least the version we have is. So we're getting there. I do think we will finish in December, but we will see. The goal is kind of loosely to finish by the end of the year. I did start The Wizard. I'm like a third of the way through it. Not as far as I wanted to be, certainly. That one got pretty much put on hold. Same with the Wars of the Bruces. Got put on hold by my friend first, and then I had to put it on hold because of my papers and stuff. So I don't know when we're gonna be picking that up. It should be relatively soon though. So there's a fair chance I might finish it in December, but I think there's a better chance I'll just finish it relatively early in January. And then Friends of Thunder. I actually have all these in physical copies. I'm just not holding them up, so you have to forgive me. Friends of Thunder, the Cherokee like folk tales and stuff. I started that as well. I finished the first couple sections, and then got busy and just stopped. But I should be finishing that. It's not a super long read. I have been enjoying it. The one that I haven't started and I guess maybe shouldn't prioritize as much as the other ones, but I really want to, is read some more Barry Crump. So I mentioned Water, Pork, and Wildcrest. This finally came right before I left Arizona to come to Illinois, and this is some collected stories. There's 5 of his books in this, just a lot more words on the page than like the one book I read. Wild Pork and Watercress is actually in this, so I have read one of the 5, so it's just 4 new stories to me, but it includes A Good Keen Man, which I believe is his very first novel, and then Bullock Creek, Gold and Greenstone, and Puha Road. I don't know if it's Puha or Pua, I don't know where they put emphasis and exactly how they pronounce that, but either way, with an introduction, to I think about 10 pages long, that might give me more background on Barry. Very crumpy, but I'm very interested in reading this, so I might go ahead and read it soon. I've just been busy with like papers and stuff, and then I'm gonna be like hopefully starting a job soon, so I have some free time, so I'm not necessarily starting the job soon. I'm gonna have to drive to Idaho for my wife's graduation, which is like a 21-hour drive relatively soon, and then drive back. A lot of driving. I guess I can get some more audiobooks in for that. I kind of listened to Mrs. Dalloway and those other ones because they were included in the Audible Plus catalog, so I was just looked up classics plus catalog, and those came up. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I've been meaning to read all of these at some point. Other ones I need to, I guess, TBR, because I am in the middle of them, that I did not mention are Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson, which I'm actually enjoying more than Treasure Island. I should finish that one. And then Burmese Days by George Orwell. That was mostly Sam from Sam Not So Wise's recommendation. I've heard him talk about it. I never heard of it till then. It's getting taken off, at least the one I have in my library, taken off the Audible Plus catalog by the end of this year. So it might be a perfect time to listen to it on my drive to Idaho and back. So that's one on my TBR as well, I guess. And for this one, I'm gonna probably try to read the first one, A Good Keen Man, out of it, and then we'll see what else happens. But either way, I don't think I'm reading 12 books again in December like I did in November somehow, and I don't know what to aim for. But aim to have a good month and get things done, even if it's not reading, and to have a good time. I grew up in Illinois, so I am seeing a lot of my family that I have not seen in 7 years. I'm not kidding. Like most of these people, I've not been able to come, and none of us are of made of money, I guess you could say. So I don't get to see them very much, and it just one thing led to another, and all of a sudden it's been 7 years. So I've been trying to take advantage of seeing my grandmother and people I love. So yeah. Either way, I've been Shannon. Let me know what you're reading or what you read, what you want to read, what you're doing for the holidays, if you're doing something particularly exciting that you would like to share. And I will see you guys next month with another monthly update, but I should have some videos mingled in there as well. So have a good one. See you soon.